and deep concern about the fact that the Queen is extremely unwell, and of course that we are expecting the news from Balmoral that she's having treatment, or that indeed they are unable to help Her Majesty anymore. A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. The Palace has just issued this statement. It says the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. Within the past few minutes, Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. To recap on the statement, the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King, that is Charles, and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. Her Majesty was 96 years old. She became Queen on the 6th of February 1952, on the death of her father, King George VI. She heard the news while staying at a game lodge in Kenya at the age of 25, and her coronation in Westminster Abbey was watched by more than 20 million people. She was married to Prince Philip for 73 years until his death in April of 2021. And Charles, their first child, was born in 1948. He now becomes the new king. In 2015, Her Majesty passed Queen Victoria to become the longest reigning monarch in British history. And in February 2022, we saw the 70th anniversary of her becoming Queen. And she made more than 250 visits to Commonwealth countries, and was head of state in Australia and Canada and New Zealand. Winston Churchill was Britain's Prime Minister when she came to the throne, and Liz Truss was her 15th Prime Minister. The BBC is interrupting its normal programmes to bring you an important announcement. This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. In a statement, the Palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. BBC Television is broadcasting this special programme reporting the death of Her Majesty the Queen. This is BBC News from London. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
did come and people did celebrate in the way that they did.
All right, Chris and Hugo, thank you. And I'm afraid to say in the last few moments, the following statement has been released. It reads, I will find that statement for you. The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. So let's take a moment to reflect on that news. So let me just now repeat that statement from the royal household, which we have received in the last few minutes. It reads, the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. And so the reign of Elizabeth II comes to a close after 70 years at the age of 96. Her son Charles is now king. For most of us, she has been the only monarch we have ever known. Her reign has been the longest and, in the view of many, one of the most successful in British history. Since her coronation in 1953, the young woman who became our Queen at just 25 years of age set the standard by which future monarchs will be judged. She protected and she preserved the institution of the monarchy in turbulent times while shaping it for the future. A life devoted to public service that has endeared her to people both here, across the wider Commonwealth and indeed the world.
But just you wait until Warren finds out what his precious son tried to do to him. Hold on.
This is Channel 4. We now join the Channel 4 News.
Good evening. Buckingham Palace has announced the death of Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in British history. Her reign lasted for 70 years, from post-war austerity and the end of empire through the expansion of the Commonwealth. She helped preserve the institution of the monarchy during times of massive social change. At her coronation, the Queen repeated her pledge to serve her people and fulfilled it throughout her reign with a combination of skill and a sense of duty. In a statement, Buckingham Palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. The Queen died today at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. She was 96. Her 4 children, Prince Charles, Princess Anne, Prince Andrew and Prince Edward all travelled to Scotland, and Princes William and Harry have joined the rest of the family. She continued to carry out royal engagements until the end of her life. Her final official event was on Tuesday when she asked Liz Truss to become Prime Minister. The Queen was born on April the 21st, 1926. She became Queen, aged just 25, on the 6th of February 1952, on the death of her father, George VI. Only a few years earlier, on her 21st birthday, Princess Elizabeth publicly dedicated her life to the service of the Commonwealth.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
Well, the Queen's coronation took place in June 1953 at Westminster Abbey with 8,000 people present. Hundreds of thousands more lined the route outside the cathedral, and an estimated 27 million watched the 3-hour service live on TV. At the time of her accession to the throne, the Prime Minister was Winston Churchill. The Queen's reign included 18 general elections, and she was served by 15 Prime Ministers. During her reign, she oversaw the transformation of the British Empire into the Commonwealth, which now comprises 54 member states. And now the flag is flying at half-mast over Buckingham Palace. We can see pictures now over Buckingham Palace. That's the flag flying at half-mast, a mark of respect to Queen Elizabeth II, whose death has been announced by Buckingham Palace.